How do you actually know if your relationship is healthy, or if it's not? Most couples ask themselves things like, do we love each other? Do we still like enjoy spending time together? Are we fighting too much? Is this relationship from God? But as a couples therapist, I ask a different question. The question I ask is the relationship producing the kind of love that God intended? And is the fruit of your relationship reflecting what it is that God intended for it to reflect in the first place? My name is Tabitha Azor. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm here to teach you a lot of things about relationships so that you can be able to build a relationship that feels meaningful and healthy for you and for your spouse. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is when we assume that because two people love Jesus, they'll automatically know how to build a healthy relationship. And that's not necessarily true. Many of us were never taught to communicate. We haven't learned to repair conflict. We haven't learned how to regulate our emotions, how to create emotional safety. Some of us don't even know how to build trust with one another. But the beautiful thing is that we have tools and we have scripture and we have things that we can look at that will be able to teach us and tell us how we must deal and with the relationships and build the type of healthy relationships that we want in our lives. So today I'm going to talk to you about 7 characteristics of healthy relationships that you can use to be able to help yourself build a healthy relationship. So today I'm going to give you about 7 characteristics that you can look for when you are evaluating your relationship to see if it is healthy or not. The first one is emotional safety. And we're going to do this with a mixture of biblical principle and the psychological principles so that you can understand the full picture on how it is that we build healthy relationships. And these are not or all of the characteristics of healthy relationships, but these are just 7 of them that we can look at to see is this relationship healthy or not. So in James chapter 1, verse 19, it tells us that we must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. The first sign is emotional safety. We must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So before he talks about speaking, before he talks about before he says like that you have to say what it is that you need to say, it talks about listening. Your listening skills have to be developed to a point where you can be able to hear your spouse, what they are saying, so that you can respond from a place of understanding and not necessarily from a place of defense, right? Because most of the time when we listen to our spouse, we're our partner, we listen so that we can respond, and we don't listen to understand so that we can hear the deeper concern that is behind or beneath the request, so that we can answer to that as opposed to defending ourselves, approving our points. Most of the time, our communication is self-focused, and because it is self-focused, it causes us to get to a place where we cannot make space for the other person. And when they don't feel heard, when they don't feel understood, when they don't feel like their issues matter enough, that's what begins to create a cycle of conflict. So in every relationship that is healthy, there is a sense of emotional safety that says that I can be myself, I can show up, I can show my emotions, and I can share them with you without feeling like I am exposing a part of me to be hurt, that I am exposing a part of me to go through something difficult with you. And when emotional safety disappears, the hiding begins, right? We begin to walk on eggshells around each other. We begin keeping secrets from one another. We begin just avoiding difficult conversations. And I want you to ask yourself honestly, and after I describe each of these, I'm going to ask you a question. Ask yourself honestly, can your spouse tell you difficult things without fearing for your reaction? Can they come to you and say something difficult without thinking that you're going to blow up, that you're going to just have a big reaction that's going to be more costly for them emotionally than opening up with you? So moving on to the second sign. The second sign is that truth can be spoken without fear, right? And we touched on this a little bit when we talked about emotional safety, but it is necessary for truth to be spoken in the relationship. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15 says, speak the truth in love. Speak the truth in love. So the package that you put the truth is love. And some of us are very passive in the way that we communicate. So we think we'll just keep everything inside. We're not going to communicate it, or we use indirect communication to express what it is that we need to express, as opposed to actively communicating and saying, hey, like, this is what's going on, and pouring out your heart and expressing exactly what you need in the moment. And some of us have very aggressive communication where we just are brutally honest with the other person. We're not putting it in a wrapper. We're not putting a Band-Aid on it. We're not doing anything. We're just speaking our minds. But when two people care about one another, the delivery of the message is extremely important. They take their time and wrap what it is that they have to say in love. It doesn't mean that you're not honest, but it means that the honesty comes softly. The honesty, you consider how the other person is going to receive the information before you say it out loud to them. If you know that when you say certain words, it's going to trigger them, it's going to make them feel bad about themselves, you don't use those words, but you package it in a way so that they can be able to receive it. Healthy communication tells the truth, but it tells that truth with kindness, with respect, with humility, and with emotional maturity. Immature people and people who have no emotional intelligence and no consideration for others, they would just say what they have to say, and they would tell you, just deal with it. You know, I'm going to tell you the truth, just deal with it. But that's not what speaking truth in love means. So here's your reflection question for this. How is it that you communicate what it is that you need to say, feedback, criticism to your partner? And when you do it, is the response favorable? Is the response like they are able to receive it even though it's difficult? Or do you find that they reject it and they're not able to receive it? They start crying, they feel worse about themselves. The fruit after you communicate will tell you how if you did a good job with communicating it all together. So let's move on to the third sign. The third sign is conflict doesn't destroy a relationship. Like I said, conflict is something that can be very helpful, very healthy for a relationship. When you take your time and you talk through things and you allow yourself to disagree on things, because you are two separate, different people that are coming together to become one. And when that happens, there's going to be some disagreement. There's going to be something that you learned in your family growing up that the other person may have learned the opposite. And in the beginning, most of the time, if you've had different upbringings, you will be attracted to the person that had the opposite of the upbringing you've had. And when that happens, in the beginning, it feels good. Oh man, this person is great. They compliment me. But eventually those things become frustrations for you. And these are the things that the two of you need to be able to communicate about so that you can be able to resolve them and just do well. So Colossians 3 tells us to bear one another's burdens and forgive each other, which means that there is going to be conflict. The Bible does not assume that there is no conflict in relationship, but it says that forgiveness is a requirement. Why is that? When Peter asked Jesus, how many times must we forgive? He said 70 times, 7 times. And that is a lot of times to forgive one person, but that is necessary because there are so many tiny microscopic things even that your spouse, your partner will do that you have to continuously choose to forgive. But when the conflict arises, it is important that you do not ignore it, but allow yourself to sit with it. Allow yourself to just be with it so that you can resolve it together or meet each other in the middle. So when a rupture happens, we deal with it. We do not ignore it. We don't throw it to the side. We don't stuff it under the rug. We talk through it. We process it. We meet each other in the middle if needed, or we choose one side, because it's not going to always be a compromise. Sometimes one person has to choose one side. So now let's talk about sign number 4, is that both people matter. And we see that in the Bible, that most of the time women were just thrown aside, women were mistreated, women were not pretty much valued in those environments. And even sometimes here as well in our society today, we see that there is the men would be more important or than the woman. And a lot of women and men are being mistreated. But it is important to understand and to remember that both people matter. And I want you to consider, it says in Philippians 2 that we must consider others above ourselves. When God created Eve, he took her from the side of Adam. And I believe that was intentional, because he was kind of like determining like that mutual submission and equality was necessary for both people. And what Adam called her is bones of my bones, flesh of my flesh. And the thing is, you don't mistreat or think of a part of you as less than the other part, because when the two become one, the two of you are actually one. And therefore, just as you would care for your own body, you would care for your own mind, you allow yourself to show up like that for your spouse. So considering each other above ourselves is something that should be mutually happening between the two of you, meaning that I consider you before me and you consider me before you. But in this society, we get a really uneven thing that maybe one spouse is considering the other before themselves and the other doesn't. So it becomes a very imbalance. It should be a good flow of give and take between the two of you. It should be, I take care of you, you take care of me. I know that everything will be taken care of on my end, and I trust you to take care of everything on your end. So this verse does not mean that you ignore yourself. This verse comes with a certain level of trust for the other person, because if you married them, if you chose to be in a relationship with them, it is important for you to at least trust them to be able to take care of your heart. Psychologically, you guys have to be able to influence one another. You have to be able to make a suggestion and know that it's heard, because your voice matters, because what you think matters. You have to be able to be heard and understood. No person in a healthy relationship should feel dominated by the other all the time. That is a sign of an unhealthy relationship. The next sign that we're going to talk about is you can depend on one another. Says two are better than one. If one falls, the other helps them up. And that's Ecclesiastes 4. Why are two better than one? Spiritually, when you think about spiritual warfare, and I don't know why I'm going into this parenthesis, spiritual warfare, it says one can chase 1,000 and two can chase 10,000. There is power in numbers. When you come together and you fight together and you deal with things together and you tackle a problem together and you try to solve something together, two are always better than one, because if you're not seeing something, I'm able to see it and tell you, hey, like you have a blind spot here, or this thing, you're not taking it into consideration. And you should be malleable enough to be able to listen to your partner and what they have to say, oh, you're right. Or to recognize, man, I'm not good with finances, but my spouse is really good with numbers. I'm going to let them flow in that area. I'm going to let them take care of that, because that's not my strength. And when we're able to do that, then we find that the power, the strength of the relationship comes out, because we're not competing with one another, but we're actually working together, just putting our strength and our strengths together, complementing each other's growth areas so that we can get more done at one time. So the question that I want you to ask yourself when it comes to depending on one another is, are you working on your independence as opposed to growing in interdependence with one another? Because that is the goal. Interdependence is the goal for a healthy relationships. The sixth sign is you stay connected without losing yourself. I always say individuality is necessary in a relationship. When you become married and you become one flesh, like Genesis 2 said, it is important for you to maintain a level of individuality. And what does that look like? You do things together. You have a shared goal, shared visions, and things that you do for your marriage, for your relationship. But at the same time, you still have certain things that you engage in by yourself that fill you up, that fuel you. It says you love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if I'm going to love my neighbor as I love myself, how much time did I spend taking care of me? How much time did I spend emptying myself out so that I can have enough to give? How much time did I spend with other people? It is very healthy for your relationship when you go and spend time with other people. And I'm not saying spend time in the wrong way with other people. I'm saying having good and fruitful friendships that you share with others, even a space to talk, a safe space to talk safely about your spouse, about the things that are coming up in your life, is a really good thing for your relationship. Because most of the time what we end up doing is that we make our partner the thing. We make them the thing. We talk to them about everything. They become God to us, basically. But it is important for you to maintain certain activities that you did on your own, maybe before you met that person. Some of them they will join you on, but there are some things that you just do on your own. Why? So that you can be able to be filled. And part of that space as well is spending time with God on your own so that you can be filled, so that He can kind of like pour into you the things that you need, so that you are not looking to your spouse for the solution for everything. And then sign number 7 is the relationship produces good fruit. And a relationship doesn't produce fruit by accident. A relationship doesn't produce fruit on its own. Fruit is intentional. When you think about this in the natural sense, when a farmer wants an apple tree, they would take the seed, they would put it in good soil, they would water that good soil, they will just nurture the plant until it grows. When it becomes a tree, continues to nurture it, continue to prune it so that it can bear fruit. And the same thing is required for your relationship, because it's not going to happen on its own, but you have to guide it in the way that it needs to grow overall. So what fruits that your relationship needs to produce? It says that in Galatians 5, love, joy, peace. So love, you feel that connection with one another and you show it through your actions. Joy, that when you see one another, you are able to share good moments, even in the middle of arguments, even in the middle of conflict or disagreements. You can still maintain a level of joy with one another. You can still crack a joke here and there with one another, even when you're mad at each other. There is peace that the moment you enter your home, the moment you enter into the environment that you share, you feel that peace, patience. You are patient with one another. You allow your heart to give the other person an opportunity to be a human being, basically. Kindness, you are kind to one another, you care for one another. Faithfulness, you do not step out, you do not violate the boundaries that you have set for yourself, and you treat each other gently. You treat each other's emotions, each other's hearts gently, and you have self-control. These are very important. And the question that I'm going to ask you for this one is, which one of these fruits that are found in Galatians 5 have you seen evidence of in your relationship? But have you been seeing more fear? Have you been seeing more fear, bitterness? Have you been walking on eggshells in your relationship? Has there been just more anger in the midst? No hope, no security, no safety? What are the fruits, or what is the fruit that your relationship is producing in this season? And I hope you notice something today, that these characteristics are not, like I said, perfect. It doesn't say we don't fight. It doesn't say we never make mistakes, but they're very malleable. They leave room for mistakes. They are very soft and caring for one another. They put the other person before yourself without neglecting you. And they cause you to become more like Christ in your marriage, because that's the whole point. The whole point is for us to become more like him